Well, speaking of things that weren't states yet,
Yeah.
um,
Should we do it?
do you know there were socialists on the Mayflower?
Yes. Here we go.
People first started calling themselves socialists during the 1800s, but the idea of socialism has been around longer than that. In fact, it had already failed in America. Socialism just doesn't work. Unlike capitalism, which rewards hard work and great ideas, socialism destroys people's motivation to work, and as a result, people work and everyone ends up with less. The Pilgrims found this out the hard way at their Plymouth colony, where they originally tried to share all property. Since they didn't have the free market or its promise of a reward for hard work, people just didn't work as hard. Even though they needed to eat just as much, they grew far fewer crops, which led to famine where people starved to death. Many people felt that some people took more than their fair share or didn't deserve as much because they didn't work as hard. People felt that this system was unfair and that the shared property was divided into private plots of land given to the settlers. This created a free market, which rewarded people for their hard work, and the colony began to prosper. And just in case you missed the lesson of that story, Plymouth's economy, before socialism, after capitalism.
He didn't even have a house before. Before. He didn't even have a house.
I guess under socialism, he just had to sleep on the ground.
That might have maybe been a reason why they couldn't produce so much food. He was tired.
Yes, exactly. Before socialism economy, socialistic, no private property ownership, everyone shares food. After capitalism economy, free market, each family owns private property and provides for themselves. Before socialism result, people don't have the incentive to work hard and instead expect other people to take care of them, causing a famine. After capitalism result, incentivized to work hard, people take care of themselves and produce enough food. The colony thrives.
Thank God.
I am just gonna take a stand here and say that none of that happened.
Yeah, I know. Well, I was wondering, couldn't it have been like they just were figuring out the agriculture of a different climate, or that the weather was bad? Like, there's I don't know. Like, I have farmers in my family. Like, sometimes there's like a flood and all the soybeans get ruined. I don't know. It's kind of a specific lesson to take.
So there's actually an article about this from 2014 in Slate, which is so it's called Thanksgiving Socialism, it's the People's Republic of Plymouth, the strange and persistent right-wing myth that Thanksgiving celebrates the Pilgrims' triumph over socialism. It explains, pretty much what it says in the Huckabee booklet. It says the tale has its roots in the Cold War. Let us be thankful for this valued lesson from our fathers and yield not to the temptations of socialism, advised a 1968 column by the popular mid-century conservative newspaper columnist Henry Hazlitt. The idea, which has the twin virtues of reaffirming the wisdom of the free market system and discounting the modern multiculturalist notion that the Pilgrims succeeded with the help of Native Americans, is rooted in historical accounts. It has some flaws, though. Communal farming arrangements were common in the Pilgrims' day. Many of the towns they came from in England were run according to the open field system, in which the land holdings of a manor are divided into strips to be harvested by tenant farmers. As Nick Bunker writes in 2010's Making Haste from Babylon, the pay Mayflower Pilgrims in their world, open field farming was not some kind of communism. All the villagers were tenants of the landlord. There was no local baron in Plymouth, but it was a commercial project as much as a religious one, and the colonists still had to answer to their investors back in England. It was this, not socialist ideals, that accounted for the common course. Under the terms of the contract for the first 7 years, no individual settler could own a plot of land. The Pilgrims' transition, which again happened after the first Thanksgiving, can indeed be used to illustrate the benefits of individualism, etc. But the Rush Limbaugh crowd should note that the settlers at Plymouth were rebelling against the rules set by a corporation, not against the strictures of some Stalinist collective farm or hippie commune. I mean, is Halliburton a socialist scheme? New York University's historian Karen Kupperman said. Yeah, it's a bit of a stretch. The Halliburton's oil engineers, aren't. Anyway, in any case, it goes on like that. But the point is that this was not, in fact, what they had at Plymouth was never like collective ownership, never mind ideologically motivated collective ownership. They had a contract with a corporation in England that like they were farming on their behalf, and they had to and like they had to like arrange the labor in a certain way. So,
they were gig workers.
Exactly. So like if they did indeed have no house even during that, that is the fault of that's the fault of the company and the contracts. So I think the history is a little bit sketchy here, but the next thing we learn, it's like, all right. So far we've just been getting this like right-wing version of history, but now we're going to find out what socialists believe.
Important.
Yeah. I'd never attack America with a bomb, bullets, or battleships. I'd just lie about our history.
Exactly.
Yeah. Perfect.
Socialists talk about everyone being equal, but they actually divide people even more. That is like, I don't know if there were two drafts of this that got mixed together in a weird way, or there's just like a very lazy writer who didn't remember how the sentence started. But like, shouldn't that be, if the end is going to be, but they actually divide people even more, shouldn't the beginning of the sentence be like, socialists talk about bringing people together or something like that?
Yeah.
Being equal and, it doesn't quite fit.
Well, it's kind of because they can't say that, because capitalists don't exactly want people to be equal either. So I guess it's lazy. It's clunky.
Yeah, because it should either be what we just said, or else socialists talk about everyone being equal, but they actually make people more unequal or something like that. But I guess they can't quite bring themselves to make that claim.
Nope.
Well, one big thing that Huckabee even talked about in that thing is like there are different types of equality, and they're kind of jumbling them all together, like equality of outcome versus equality of opportunity, which is the thing that Jordan Peterson talks about, but he used that same phrase in that. And then there's also like the equality of the equality of the races, which is kind of something that he complained about as like a diversity thing. So I feel like the words, like I feel like equality in that sense, like everything somebody like Huckabee doesn't like, or whatever company, like he's working with a company obviously, so it's like whoever the writers that like are working with Huckabee to write this stuff, I feel like are very like purposely putting the word equality in there to like make all of those aspersions at the same time.
Instead of trying to make it easier for everyone to become successful, they want to punish those people and make it harder for everyone to succeed. So I want to be real clear on this, because they say that they keep using this phrase, everyone be successful, everyone succeed. Like, what would that mean? Like, I want to know, like, is successful mean like you own your own company, or we're gonna like, again, are we gonna have like 300 million companies?
Yes, actually, yes. Well, 300 million companies that are eventually all bought by one company. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, successful. What does successful mean to a 9-year-old? Like, does successful mean you have like your own? You like have you get to have all the iPad time you want?
I mean, like, I know 9-year-olds like have a conception of what they're going to be when they grow up, but I don't think that like most of them are thinking about like being entrepreneurial, business owners. I think that aren't they thinking about like being firemen and stuff?
No, yeah. I mean, in my experience, kids always just want to be. I mean, it's still the like astronauts. Like astronaut and rock star comes up all the time, even though rock music hasn't been like a mainstay for like 20 years.
There's always those couple sociopathic kids though that they like put on the news that are like, kid makes like $60,000 owning a lemonade stand or something, and it's like that's the person that's going to end up becoming like the most ruthless business executive that we've ever seen. Like,
or his like father is like laundering money through his son's.
That one sounds way more likely to be.
Yeah,
exactly. Something's going on.
There's that guy that I was watching Weekends, and Nando had a clip of like some guy, I guess, that's like owned a lawn service business since he was like 12 or something, that has a podcast. Like, hell yeah. So like Nando's playing like this clip of him complaining about the labor shortage. He's like, people just don't want to work. And it's like, he's like a lot older now. Like, it's just like, no, that's like, those are like the sociopaths, like lobbying, like congressmen to fucking like cut off unemployment.
Which I love that talking point so much. Cause like, even if we pretend that like, my understanding is like actual labor shortages and, like how many jobs picked out, it's a little all over the place in different sectors. And like also, 600,000 people died of, like there are a massive number of COVID deaths last year that were, disproportionately concentrated among the people who would have these jobs. Right. But like, whatever, ignore all that. Right. I mean, just like accept the premise that people don't want to work these shitty minimum wage jobs because the enhanced unemployment is like good enough that they can just live on that. Like, what an indictment of the system,
right?
That all these business owners are just saying, like, look, I want people to be desperate enough to have to accept this job because I know that if they have anything at all without it, they won't.
No, it's and then the small business owners that are like really lobbying hard for this, and that's why I think Republicans focus so hard on small business owners as a constituency. Like, they obviously don't want any change in the laws. Like, they have been amazing at really lobbying hard to not change any of these laws outside of just like the COVID pandemic. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, people don't want to work because they're lazy, and that line gets pushed over and over and over and over again. But it's like, people don't want to, like, people are making more unemployment because our fucking unemployment, like our fucking wage system is so fucked. And like, it's like any small amount of worker power, anytime workers get because right now workers have leverage. Like, if there truly is a labor shortage to the extent that small business owners claim there is, like, we have leverage for the first time in a long time, and it's terrifying to them. But of course, that's not the line that gets pushed by.
No, exactly. I mean, I've actually seen people say things like, well, to get anybody to work right now, I have to pay them more. I have to be more flexible about time off.
Terrible. I know, right? Like, oh my God, you have to add in things about like if they get exposed to COVID, I have to like let them not come in. It's crazy.
My favorite one is the one-time signing bonus. Like,
yes,
the companies are going, oh, like, this one time we're going to give you this amount of money if you join our company. We really need laborers, but like, obviously that's not a fucking wage. Like, that's just a bonus for, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, they exactly. Don't, like, so they really try. Like, it's so insidious. And like, the small business owners have been able to lobby so hard because, both Democrats and Republicans are, completely enamored with that model. You know what I mean? Like the small business model. Like, nobody wants to be the party of big business on paper. Like, so like at this point, so it's like the small business owners kind of get the same like things that the big business owners want get grafted onto the small business owners. And because it's like a local institution, you're supposed to not be able to criticize it. They're like, well, do you want like a chain to move into that place? And it's like, I just want fucking people to get paid the right amount, like, that they can live on. Like,
right. Yeah, exactly. Well, They think that people who work hard in order to live a better life are making it more difficult for other people to do so. This means that socialists see everything as a battle between the rich and the poor. When thinking like that, there's no room for people to see one another as equal because they're so focused on fighting each other.
But they're not equal. Like, you literally don't have as much stuff. Someone is telling you what to do. If someone is telling you what to do, you don't feel equal.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, at the beginning of the main show, we watched this video of this like tips, from Kevin O'Leary about how to be your own boss. And he starts out by talking about how bad it was when he was an employee, and that's why he had to start his own business and so he could control his own destiny. It's like, guys,
yeah. Like, literally, unless like you have a business like I do, it's not really a business in that way where you're just a contract worker, basically. Like, that's it. Like, there's no other way where you're not going to then have someone else who you're going to be bossing around, maybe taking the surplus value out of their wage. Like, there's no way around it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's weird that they mentioned a couple pages ago the idea that socialists might want workers owning their own business, the businesses they work for, which, that's like, we never really explain why that would be bad.
No, well, it would be bad because it's multiple people. You need to only have one person in charge, obviously. Like, they believe in the auteur theory of property ownership, obviously.
Fair enough. Look, would you want a whole committee telling Francis Ford Coppola what to do when he was making Apocalypse Now?
I don't think so.
Well, in that case, you shouldn't want you should want the auteur who owns this Chipotle franchise to have the same level of like creative autonomy.
Right. We need to stop using the metaphor of running government like a business or like a family budget and start thinking about it making RoboCop 2. Obviously.
Exactly. Capitalists believe in individualism, which is the idea that everyone should have the same rights, freedoms, and opportunities. On the off chance that there's a child in existence whose eyes haven't glazed over by this point, they might be a little confused because they just heard about socialists wanting to be the same for everybody, and that sounds like everybody should have all the same rights, freedoms, and opportunities.
Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay.
Socialists believe in collectivism, which is the idea that what's good for a group of people is more important than what's good for one person. This is why socialists think it's okay to take something that one person has made and give it to other people. They feel the happiness and freedom of one person isn't very important.
I mean, what the like what? Okay, so that I'm just thinking. I've had the Amazon, boxes on my mind, right? Like the fact that they need to add those, like that must mean that one person is not doing very well. But for the collective of the stockholders and the board members, we're going to just try to fix. Like, I don't understand how this whole collectivism, individualism frame, just like it's so vague.
Yeah.
It's a thing like it's a thing like like Adam Curtis talks about that all the time, and it always feels it feels so vague to me that I'm like, you could kind of flip this whenever you want if you're doing an argument, right?
No, totally, yeah, no, absolutely. Like this, I mean, or you could say like. Yes, I mean clearly, like if socialists believe that heach individual has a right to the following things, including like healthcare and a decent standard of living, and some well, I mean, they did say, right, own their own businesses, so so that they like some sort of control at the workplace. Then that sounds like a bunch of claims about individuals.
Yes, and that all, like, I don't know. I think we're trying to be dialectical about highlights for like baby Hitler. So maybe it's a little bit of a challenge. I do want to see Zizek on this, I have to say.
Oh my God, yeah, gotta get Zizek to weigh in on the Kid's Guide to Fighting Socialism.
Fighting socialism, the ideology.
Yeah. This I claim.
Fighting propaganda by making your own propaganda.
Yeah.